Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. It's Kim here. And today is another episode of our working on the wannabe charms. These are the things that, they don't have holes in them. So we're figuring out ways to put holes in them or ways to mount them so that we can turn them into charms. So these are all the ones that we have that are semi-finished. They're ready to be charms now, or they are sort of a charm, and now we will turn them into dangles in next week's series. But I just wanted to show you the ones that we did. So this was the one where I just glued this to a fabric base. That was kind of the last thing we worked on, was fabric bases. And off camera, I just went and sewed around them a little bit just to hold everything secure and in place, with the idea that I will be embellishing further on here and doing more to dangle in upcoming classes. And so I also did this one where you watched me just willy-nilly cut out a piece of fabric. I haven't put anything on the back of this yet. But I will, there'll be some finished decorating, because this is still in the stages where we don't know exactly what we're doing with these things. I have to dream it up as I go along a little bit, although I will show you something really cool. So yeah, again, I just went back and stitched across the top and down the edges here just to hold everything secure. And, I like this raggy look. Not everybody does, of course, but I do like this shabby look. So I'm happy with this. I'm kind of excited to work on that. And then same with this one, just stitched across the top and a little bit around the edges just to finish it off. And it's glued on the back here, so it's in good shape the way it is. And then my favorite piece of the other day was this butterfly piece. So I started out with those two little butterfly charms and then added some fabric to the glitter paper that I've been using, this stuff here. And then I backed it with another piece of this paper or fabric. And because the fabric had the lining on the back, it's already got a nice finish. So I just stitched around the edge very carefully because it was pretty tight. But I stitched around the edge very carefully, and then I will consider how I will embellish it yet further to make it into more of a charm. I didn't put a hole at the top just yet because, again, I want to think about it a little bit. The thing with dealing with these different pieces is that no two are going to have the same solution as to how you finish them and how you decorate them. So sometimes I have to sit on it for a couple of days and just think about what I want to do with them. I like this just the way it is. I'm tempted just to leave it as an embellishment. I've got this purpley color scheme going here, so it may all end up together. So this might be as far as this goes. It might just get now put into the embellishment box and it'll be considered done. But I'm still thinking on it. So you saw this big globby one. I put it onto a base, put the base on the back side, and I've got 5 holes in this one along the bottom, and then the hole at the top to make it into a charm, and then to possibly dangle things from it. I'm kind of committed now because the holes are there, so that is probably something I will be doing. Now, I don't know if you remember this one, but I had hole punched it just a little bit too close to the top there, because I had glued this down first and then made the hole. So I just had some fabric snippet in this purpley colors, and I just glued it onto the back. So now I can go back to that hole that I punched, and I can re-hole punch it again. I haven't glued it down yet, but I will glue it to the back side here, and then I will re-punch that hole, and the fabric in itself should be enough to make it very durable and have the charm or the jump ring go through it. So it was a save. It's not the most prettiest piece I've ever made, but we're not done yet. So like I said, don't judge just by what you see now, because by the time we're finished, some of these pieces will be pretty amazing. Some of them not so. Not everything is a winner, but we still have opportunity here. We just have to look for it. So while you were away, I just rearranged the box and put the unfinished ones in here. Now, I am not going to do all of these on camera with you because there's so much here that's just in plain black and silver. I'm probably going to go through my fabrics, and I'm going to go through some of my papers and find stuff that will be complementary, but to bring out a little bit more color, because everything here there's a lot of black, a lot of silver, a lot of plainness. So, I might look for papers or fabric that has red and some glittery stuff in it, or, maybe a purple or blue, something to make this not so black, but yet bring out other colors. So that I will do off camera. I'll do it on the weekend sometime, and then I will have it ready to show you for next Tuesday. But I do have another base I want to show you today that I love working with. And then I also want to show you today how to work with these ones that, remember, these were charms on a bracelet. So they would have went, like this. And they had either a thread or a wire strung through them, because the holes here are on one end, and you would just feed the wire through it, or thread or elastic through it to connect all the pieces. And that's the same with this one here. It's got 4 holes, so this probably was on a bracelet with multiple of these pieces. I wonder if Hazel or Thelma got some of them, and they would have all been connected together through using these holes. The other thing too is this little charm here. This was an earring that we broke off the back, and it's got a hole in it, so it's already ready to just put a jump ring on it, and that hole is in the center. But there's also 2 tiny little holes here, so that can also be just a jump ring that gets put through there. So I'm not going to go through doing that process. It's just a ring that you open up and put on here. Same with these little butterflies. If you can see really closely, the antennae have 2 little holes there that you can, again, put a jump ring through and attach it that way to be a charm. I would use it more as the dangle at the end of a charm, so that this is the end finished result, because we don't have anything to dangle from on this side. But after seeing how cute they look on this piece, I may consider to go back and change those and do something else similar to this. But I will do that on off camera. But to show you these, all I did with this piece was take 2 jump rings. Now I've finished one, so I will show you the finished one. Maybe you already saw it in the camera. Oh, I got all kinds of things in here. So I just took 2 jump rings. I'll just put a few out there to work with. And then taking my needle nose pliers. This is where I take 2 pair to work with at the same time. And I just grab a hold of it and find where the opening is. You can usually feel it with your finger. Okay. And then I take the holding onto it really tightly, I take the second set of pliers and grabbing both ends, I twist one hand backwards and one hand forward. And I'm just going to quickly do this just to show you. So I've opened up the jump ring. But the idea is you take one going this way and one coming back this way. You don't pull it apart like this. If you pull it like this, you have a tendency to pull away from each other, and then to try and match them up afterwards is nearly impossible. So instead you turn it this way so that they're still on the same line, they're just separated this way. And then when you put them together, back together again, when you put them, and I'm going to do one, when you put them back together, you can actually hear a little click when the 2 ends meet. You won't hear it on the video, I'm sure, but if you're doing this at home, you can actually hear that little click noise. And I do use a magnifier too, so I can see, but the click noise is a good indication that you've fully closed it. So as I said, I've got the holes here. I'm going to put this jump ring through one of the holes. And it's just dangling there. And now I'm holding it at the opening. And I know it's not easy to see. And there are other videos that, you know, they have zeroed in on closing a jump ring. So you may want to search those out. You know, I'm not exactly the best at showing you this part because I don't have the camera skills to do it. But again, grabbing it in the same spot that I had before, sort of, I am now going to do the opposite and close them. And if in any, I may have pulled it a little bit this way as well. So you want to kind of push forward as you're rolling it back and forth. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. Sometimes I say this stuff and I wonder, am I getting through? And then eventually you will hear and feel when it clicks together. And the reason you'll know that is when they make jump rings, it's done sort of like if you can imagine a knitting needle, and the wire just keeps getting wrapped all around it. But on, you know, they use different tools, of course. And so it's this long metal spring, and then they make one cut that goes through all of them. But it's such a hairline cut that when it's cut, the two pieces are cut sort of on an angle. And so when you click it shut, it's actually getting snug right back to where it started from originally. So the cut is so thin that when you do that, you'll hear the click, and you know that you've shut it completely. That's the best I can explain it. Just keep working at it. If nothing else, use a magnifier. It's really disappointing when your jump ring goes and it just falls in, and then you've got to start over again. But, you know, if you buy jump rings in large quantities, sometimes you just have to let one go and start from scratch again. So, and then the other thing that I don't like to say this, but I have a tendency of opening them with my fingers, which is probably not a good thing because you ruin fingernails. I'm just finding the opening here. Here we go. You ruin fingernails, and it's not exactly the correct way to do it, but I do it when they're very soft like this. So I've got the one in here, and I'm just going to put this one in the other hole. Now it doesn't work with one hand to reclose it. I still need the pliers to close it. And this is closed. So now I have two jump rings here that I can hang this like a dangle. So it would hang this way. The only thing is it does have a little bit of a curve in it. So it's not exactly, you know, the most perfect method of dangling. My personal choice would be to put the dangles on and then still have some type of a base underneath to give it the flatness behind it. Otherwise, you're going to have that curve in there. You can try to bend it a little bit straighter or hammer it straighter, but you risk breaking the stones. You risk breaking this into pieces because it's just soldered together. But if you're okay with a little bit of a curve because of it being one of those bracelet pieces, then you can start to dangle from the bottom here as well as from the top. Now, when I'm going to dangle something from the bottom, that means, or from the bottom or wherever, it means that I do have to reopen those jump rings. So ideally, if you know what you're going to do, then before you close the jump rings, you would do that. So if I had, you know, a beaded dangle that I was going to put on here, or a charm, although this doesn't lend itself to a charm so much, it really needs to have a little bit more in length to make it look nice. But ideally, you want to try to do those things at the same time. So usually when I'm working with them, I kind of have it sitting there, and I already have a plan as to what I'm going to dangle from it and how I'm going to handle the top of it. So to give you an example of that, I did have one here, and I dangled I have the two jump rings at the top. I hope you can see that okay. And then I put a chain on here to dangle it, or to be the hanger from the top. And then I still have 2 jump rings on the bottom that I will dangle something from. But this will now go, it's in the finished section. And same with this, because until I know what I want to do with this, it's ready to be a charm because it has the holes. So it's something I can attach something else to it. So this will now just go right into the charms. Instead of me trying to put jump rings on every single thing, and then, you know, I don't have something to dangle for it, or I don't know what the plan is, it's just as easy to do it once instead of doing it twice, right? So these will now just sit, and I won't even put the jump rings on the bottoms or top of this one because, again, it depends on what I'm going to do with it. But this is kind of the idea where, just to show you, I have done it with the 2 jump rings on top and 2 on the bottom. Now, in saying that, you do have to be mindful that if you want this to hang straight and maybe hang from yet another piece, you need to either have a jump ring on top of that chain. Can you see that? I hope you can see that. Or you need to attach it to another component of some kind in order to finish it off at the top there. So when you're doing this, you're going to have to be mindful that your chain has to have an odd number of links so that there's only 1 link at the top to attach this to. So right now this has 2 links, and I can visually see that. So that means I have to now open one of these jump rings, break off a link, and then put it back together. Otherwise, your piece is not going to sit straight. So this is something we will explore more in the videos where we're doing charms and dangles, because you don't want to end up having to try to go through 2 of these loops with your jump ring or whatever you want to attach. So it's easier to just make sure that you have the right amount of links. Now, in order to have the right amount of links, you have 2 choices. You either have to lay it out flat somewhere and see how the end will sit, or you have to physically count the links to make sure you have an odd number. I choose to try to do it this way instead of counting them, because it's very easy to make a mistake when you're counting. But usually you can tell pretty quickly, and it's just a matter of opening up the 1 jump ring, breaking off one of the links, and then closing it up again. So that we will explore in the next video when we start doing some charms and dangles. But this just gives you an idea of how you would put items on to act as the next level for creating your charms, just using jump rings. So yeah, we will explore this later on. So I'm going to consider that those are done. And the same with this one. Now this one, I could do, because there's holes and there's nothing to attach to, what I would do is make 1 piece of wire. Now you have to decide how many of the holes you want to use for starters. I'm going to use 2 holes, knowing that I'm going to attach a chain on here. But I'm going to leave these 2 other holes for the next stage that we're doing. So I'm going to put this wire through the hole first. And then taking my round nose pliers, I'm just going to make a loop. And this is where I like to make a loop that's closed, so I roll it down a little bit onto itself. And then I pull it tight, knowing that I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Now, I work right off the roll. You know, for some of you starting out, you may want to just cut pieces, but then you risk being short or too long and you have waste. So that's something you have to consider as well. So once I've got the loop made and I know that it's mine is a little bit sticking up there. Okay, so now that I know that it's right snug against the piece of jewelry that I'm using, I bend this wire down. So I know that that's the point where my next loop has to end. So that this is not moving anywhere, and this wire isn't going anywhere. And then I cut about a 1/4 inch. So that it looks like that. Can you see that? So the wire has gone through. It's nice and tight. It's not going anywhere now because it is bent. But I've then cut about a 1/4 inch from the bend to the end of the wire. And then grabbing my needle nose pliers, I roll it back into the bend. Now this takes a little bit of practice, and it's not always easy to close. I've been doing this for 100 years, so, well, not quite 100, but you know what I mean. So I'm more used to it, but you will have to practice. You may make it a little bit longer and roll it back a bit so that you have lots of extra room. That's up to you. And then when it's closed, as you can see, I have one loop facing this direction, and then this one's facing the other direction. So then, taking my 2 flat nose pliers, I just grab the loops on either side and bend them the same direction. And you may have to do it a couple of times. But either way, it doesn't matter. As long as they're even, you will see that they can roll around, but they are either facing this way or this way, but they are together in the same direction. And having said that, yes, I've got the wires in the same direction so that the holes are facing, or the same way. But there are going to be times where you don't want that, where you want this one to be facing the other way and this one to be facing up. And that is a personal situation depending on what you're working on and what you're doing. You may be adding metal coins to the bottom of your piece. So you want the coins facing this direction. Does that make sense? So you would have to consider, are you putting a jump ring on, which is going to turn them another way, and then adding it to this? Are you putting it directly on this? And I know that doesn't make any sense at this point. So you're probably just going to have to wait and figure it out when you're doing this or when we're doing one in an upcoming video. Because depending on how many pieces you add on, it's going to change the direction of the finished piece. Now, if it's just a straight dangle of beads, it really doesn't matter. But if you have something that is directional, that has to face front or back or sideways, then you have to be aware of where this ends up as to where your finished piece ends up. It's like having an odd versus an even number of chain links. You just have to figure it out as you go along. So it may mean changing this back so that one is facing one way and one is facing the other, but it all depends on how many links you add on, because each time you add on a link, it changes the direction of the final piece. I hope that can make sense. And if not, we will demonstrate this. I will use some coins to finish this piece, just to give you a better visual idea of how they can be facing the wrong direction. So again, to repeat that, I just took the wire, I fed it through this hole. Now these were meant for threads. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So, and then it doesn't matter how long you pull it through, because you need something to work with. So you can pull it back and forth as long as you want for the first loop. And then taking my round nose pliers, I am just twisting the wire around enough to make sure that the loop is closed. There are other methods, and we will practice some of the other methods as well in future videos. But for this method, this is pretty easy to do. Once you've got the loop made, you just pull the wire back nice and tight, pulling it nice and tight, and then bend this wire down. And then we're going to cut it about a 1/4 inch from the bend. And then taking the round nose pliers, I'm going to hold this all and make a loop. Now, I think I've said this a few times. I I'm used to working more now with a magnifier than doing this, so it's a little harder for me to see. But once you've got it in there, and then if I want it to match with the other one, it actually matches this time. I'm just going to use these pliers to close it a little bit better. And so now I've got this ready to put dangles coming down and hang something from there as well on the top, like a chain, or, you know, maybe I can extend it with even more beads. We will see how that goes in the future. And, you know, I'm going to use something that is directional so that you get a better idea of what I mean by the direction of the jump rings, or the basic loops. Now, I am using wire right off the roll, and for doing this kind of stuff, that is the most economical way you can do this. It is cheap to buy wire by the roll. There are things called eye pins that have the little loop on the one end, in which case you would just feed it down through the hole, and it would already have the loop at the top, and you would bend it, cut it to fit, and then roll up your second one. That's a great way to do that as well. I do have those, but I don't have them handy. Now, for the other two holes in here, if I wanted to have 4 things dangling from here, and I don't want to have 4 loops up the top, then I would use what's called a head pin, where it looks like a sewing pin. You know, it's flat on the top, like a nail, flat. And so you would feed that through so that it's secure against the hole, and then I would just make the loops with that. And this is where we will explore that in the next video, but I'm just explaining it now so that these 4 holes can be all used up, but you don't necessarily want 4 loops up at the top. So we will use the head pins to come through here and then make the loops on the bottom and be able to dangle 4 different things from the bottom. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, this is just another way to explore adding, you know, things on to make a charm, which is what we're doing. We're turning these beads that weren't charms into charms. So that's that one. And the same with these little butterflies. Like I said, depending on how I want to use them, I would just put 2 jump rings in there and add from there as well. But to me, this is more of a finishing piece, and depending on, you know, what I decide in the end, I will show you whatever it is I do, or I will take it to the next video and we will do these together. So I hope that explains that enough. And it's not something that we're just dropping from here. We are going to use this in the future, so you will see more and more of it as we go along. But another one of my favorite ways to make bases for this type of, you know, globby bits that you want to attach to something else is to use bottle caps. And bottle caps, if you were to buy them in a package, they come in a box. You can buy them at wherever they have wine and beer making supplies. They're not expensive. I think they're about anywhere from about $8 to about $15 a box, depending on how many are in the box. You can often find them at thrift shops. You know, people get into doing this kind of stuff and then they decide they don't want the bottle caps anymore. So they're not expensive to buy. There's 150, or there was 150 in this box. And this is how they come. They come in a bag. Sorry. Can't seem to open the bag. I've got some out here, so I'm just taking a couple out to show you. So they come like this. They're kind of like a little, you know, it's like a little dish. It's a bottle cap that hasn't been used yet. It hasn't been pressed against a bottle. But if you have a Sizzix machine, you can flatten these, and I will show you how I do that as well. But the way it's sitting right now, this makes a really cool place to embed different things. So I do use them like this and create little collages of beads and mix things right in here. And I use resin and I fill it up another day, another time. So you can use it just like that and then put holes in it to both dangle and to make it into a charm. To flatten them, it gives you a different look altogether. And I've got some here that are flattened, I think. Yes. So I have this one is flattened already, and you'll see how we do that if you haven't done it already. And this will turn out just like this. And this, again, is another flat, nice way to create a base to put stuff into. Let's see, this will fit in there. So then all I would have to do is put a hole with my crocodile on either end or whatever end I want to, and then glue my component that I want to put in there to finish it. So I have that. I think there's, does this one fit? No, it's a little small. Oh, this one might fit. So something like that can be glued in there. Maybe you have buttons that would fit in here. You just break the shank off of it, off the back of the button, and you can glue those into there as well. So there's lots of different pieces that you can put in here. Like I've even got this little flower might sit in there nicely. So I would just glue that right into the bottle cap. But before that, I would put jump ring holes. These are also great to add little, 1-inch circles that you punch with your circle punch. Do I have my 1-inch one here? Yeah, I do. And do I have a piece of cardstock or something? I must have something I can use. Yeah, it's the 1-inch punch that you would punch some cardstock. So, maybe you have some images of pretty ladies. You can glue those into your bottle cap base. See, that's the 1-inch. And you can collage on top and make some really fun charms with pennies. So it's another opportunity to explore. Now, using the crocodile, you would use the small hole. You can also use, a nail and a hammer or a pokey tool and some type of pressure. And you have to be pretty close to the edge. You're going to go through a few where you're going to make where the hole's not going to line up, and I'm going to probably do that. I'm just kind of guessing here. And so there's my hole at the top. And the one thing about the metal, as long as you don't cut through, it's not going to open up that easily. So now this is ready to put something into it. I can have that as a base and then glue this in. So it's a great way to create some fun charms. You can also, if you are reluctant or don't have a crocodile to punch a hole in it, you can go back and put like a spiral or some type of a backing, including fabric or paper, to create a charm that way. So there's so many ways that you can use these to create fun little collages and great little charms. So to flatten them, I flatten them with my Sizzix machine. And if you have a Sizzix machine, then that's going to be very easy to do. If you don't, there's a couple other methods too. So if you have a Sizzix machine, I'm just going to roll this out. You need to use your platform in its full, does that make sense? The whole platform where you don't take off the layers. And you need your Sizzix cutting mat, and then you put your bottle caps on. And I usually don't do more than about 4. And you do want to spread them out quite a bit so that they don't, if you put them too close together like that, then you risk that they'll bend into each other. And then put the top on. And it sounds creaky. Of course, I don't have a lot of room here. It sounds a little creaky at first. And you need to eat your Wheaties. And you only have to go through once. And they are flattened. Just like that. So now this one, I probably could, because these might be a little bit softer, I probably could go where I don't have all the full platform. So then I would go one down. And if you have a Sizzix machine, of course, this makes sense, right? And I'm just going to take another one here. And hopefully that one flattened out as well. Yeah, this one, yeah. So it's, sorry, I had said it wrong. It wasn't to use the whole platform. The whole platform is if you want them even flatter, which is what I do as well. So this is the stage where you would just add this little piece in, or, you know, add some cardboard in and collage and decorate like that, and then make your holes. Or use a pokey tool. You can use your metal pokey tool, but be very careful. I would use it on a cutting mat, and either, let's just do one. Because if anybody's going to bleed on camera, it should be me, right? Won't be the first time. Okay, so there's the really flat ones, which, yeah, I remember now. I was doing these because I was flattening them different. And that one, you have to go through a couple of times back and forth in order to get it really flat like this. And when do I use those? I flatten them, and you can flatten these on a vise too. I flatten them so much, and then I do use an embossing tool. Like I put them back through the Sizzix machine using an embossing folder. However, when I say that, you have to choose an embossing folder that you really don't love a lot, because this will make some cuts into your embossing folder and eventually will ruin your embossing folder. I just happen to have a couple of extras. Like I have one of this music sheet, and I have one of a flower that I don't really use very often, so I used it to emboss on top of these metal pieces. You can also do that with tin can lids. But these are all things that I recommend you experiment with, and that you expect to have a few mishaps, because, you know, I torture my machines to the maximum, and some of you don't. So you have to know what level of chance you're willing to accept and take in order to achieve these effects. But yes, these were bottle caps at one time, and I've just flattened them. You can do this with a vise. If you have a vise, you can certainly flatten them out. And then I put them through the embosser. But again, it gives you a fun charm to play with and fun opportunities, because you can go back and add things onto them to make them far more interesting. And yeah, this was where I had used to make them the larger ones. I forgot what I was doing. Just to give you some ideas of things that you can do with them. And so that's how I use bottle caps. And then when they're in this flat stage, it's very, very easy to use your crocodile and make holes in them as well. But other option, oh, here, I had also cut some of this glitter paper into that size. So you can see already, just putting a piece of glitter paper in into the bottle cap, how it makes a difference and gives you a great base to work with. So this would be fun to even put behind this little flower thing. So to make a hole with it using your pokey tool, it is doable. I'm like, this is a mat. It's just a matter of holding on to it and lining it up, and, you know, twisting it until it goes through your piece. And of course, you know, I'm doing this on camera, and I didn't have enough Wheaties, I don't think, today to get me through the day. Here we go. And, you know, you may have other tools. Can't see where I am. You may have other tools to try. You could even try like a thumbtack with a nail or with a hammer. But this is going through now. So it is an alternative to using a crocodile. If you don't have a crocodile, it makes a much smaller hole. And, you know, a controlled hole where you know that it's going through this little ridge part, you know, the little edge. So there's another option for the hole versus my first one that I did that I can't find. Oh, is it this one? Yeah. Where this is a much larger hole. I don't know if you can see it or not. And this has got a really tiny, tiny hole. Right there. But either one of these should go through, the jump ring should go through it. I think this is wide enough for the jump ring to go through. So let's just try one. My husband's doing some work. So if you hear his saw going, okay, not going to find that for a day or two. I hope this is not too boring for you guys. Can't even see the hole. Yeah, I got, oh, here we go. Yeah, it goes through. So I'm just going to close that. Yeah, my husband's doing some sanding right now, so. And now I have the jump ring on here and it's ready to go. Oh, I don't have it on. I didn't have it closed. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to show you so that it would be ready to go to use as a charm. I will fix all this up in my time off the computer or off the video. One more time. Here we go. It should go through pretty easy now. There we go. So the pokey tool will work as an alternative to using your crocodile. There. That looks closed to me. And then it's just a matter of building upon it. Now, the bottle caps also come with a plastic or kind of a rubbery ring inside here. You can use your heat tool to melt that out. You still have to do lots of picking to get it out of there. You can use, you know, something like a little element that you would hold your coffee cup to warm up your coffee. If you rest these on top of there, I do have one here. I don't have it here. But you can rest this on top of that little coffee. Oh yeah, I do have it. Sorry. It's on the floor. You can heat the coffee holder, because this is for your coffee cups, and you can rest these on here, and this will soften up the glue, but it gets hot. You have to, you know, hold it with some pliers, and then you can pick this rubber ring off. There's a few different videos that show you how to get rid of this rubber piece. I just work around it. I just build on top of it and not fret about it too much. I have some where I've had to take it off, and you know, it's a lot of work to take it off, but it's up to you. There are some videos that talk about removing the rubber ring in bottle caps, so just do a search and you'll find a method that might work for you. You can take a torch and torch them. But yeah, it's again, I question the amount of work for the results, because the results are not necessarily that gorgeous. Like even in here, this one I've taken it out, but it's still kind of lumpy and bumpy. So it depends on what you how you feel about it. So either way, I just use a base to build on so that it gives you a flat surface, and then I can add my components or things that I want to put on top. So that's the bottle caps. And then, you saw the jump rings. I think that's pretty much it for today's video. Yeah, we're getting on there in time. And yeah, you can also flatten them out completely. Use a vise if you don't have a Sizzix machine. If you have the Sizzix, using the full platform will give you this flat piece. Using the one level down will give you the curved piece. So either way, you create some fun, interesting bases that you can use for your jewelry. You can use tin can lids. Again, flatten them in your vise, flatten them in a Sizzix. It's a larger surface, and you can collage and build on that as well. The only thing is you may want to do some sanding along the edges so that it is not sharp. But it's one of those things that you have to experiment and play with on your own and decide at what level you want to chance, because yeah, there's always some when you do experiments, there's always some chance that you could break or ruin your machines or your tools. So I don't worry about that. I always look at how I can how I can maximize on everything, but it's one of those things that you have to do it with caution. Like I said, a couple of these embossing folders I've really destroyed because of me embossing on top of tin cans and lids and bottle caps. Another source of great bottle cap material, and you will laugh, but if you go to the beach or to places where people have outdoor picnics, or even go to the parking lot of your local bar establishment, you can very often, and I just don't have any handy right now because I keep them with my odd stuff. So maybe next week I'll show you them. You can very often find rusty bottle caps that are flat as flat can be. They have no rubber in them anymore because it's disintegrated from time of being on the ground. And often they are the right rust patina look that is just perfect for the type of things that we do. They make awesome charms and awesome bases for putting your components on. So do keep your eye out and visit some of those establishments as well. So that's it for my video for today. I hope you got some information that's useful. Now it is Friday. I've had a kind of a hectic week and things have just not flowed for me this week. So the Friday follow-up video isn't going to happen today. Tomorrow is Arm's Length Art, and I will be working on collage masterboards, just doing book pages. Now, whether or not I get online to show that to you as I'm doing them, I'm not sure. If the sun is shining tomorrow, we are hoping to have a yard sale, so that will probably consume most of my day. But I will either come on at the end of the day and show you my finished results, or I will show some pictures on Facebook in the Facebook group Crafting with Eyes Wide Open. But you guys can certainly carry on without me and just get started whenever you have a chance. Just post your projects in the group. And either tomorrow night I will show you a finished video, or soon thereafter, and I will make the draw, because I think I have 2 weeks to draw for the last 2 Saturdays of participants. So I'll have those draws tomorrow, and then show you whatever it is I create. If the weather is not so good and I don't have the garage sale, then I'll be here all day working with you. So have yourself a very creative weekend. It's Friday. Woohoo! And I will see you one way or another. On Sunday, I'm hoping to do a Thrifty Canucks video because I couldn't do one yesterday. And then we will slowly get back into our regular routine for next week. That's it. That's all. Bye for now.